Owusu-Ansah, my last name.
It's really great.
The morning espresso.
Yeah. Obviously, you've seen Peter's works that are so vibrant with color. So I want to know about your relationship with color.
Okay, great. It was great to see Peter's work that he showed me online and his Instagram feed. My first kind of impression of Peter's work is its vibrancy. Like he has this sense of color where like it kind of like glows and vibrates in your eye. My name is Louis Jacob, pronounced he, him, and I'm an artist based in Toronto. We're at the Tal Brown Gallery.
It kind of reminds me the work that Peter does of kind of doing nothing but giving everything. It's this simplicity. I almost think to myself like serene and very like still moment where you connect with yourself and you go deeper and you dig deeper into yourself from just this little essence, this little color, this little moment, a sound sometimes for me in dance. Hi, I'm Irvin Washington. I go by he, him, his pronouns. I am an artist, a choreographer and a dancer here in Toronto. I kind of feel like I'm here today to experiment, explore, and kind of dive into color.
Purple, pink, red, yellow, green, orange.
They definitely speak their own language. They definitely have a lot to say themselves. I wonder if colors could stand here or sit beside us and talk with me what they would have to say. I feel like color is almost like a billboard or banner or like a sign sometimes. Pink was my favorite color growing up, and that's kind of like hard to admit, even if that would have been like something that I'd be like kind of feel awkward about growing up, being called, you know, I don't want to go throwing out names, but you know, whatever you can come up with. Seeing Pink in Peter's work, I now associate things like Pink with creativity and inspiration.
experience. Even if we've never met in person, even if we've never interacted in person, we can relate to each other's work. Even if we've never met in person, even if we've never interacted in person, we can relate to each other's work. I put together a pendulum table, so it's a board suspended from 4 chains on the ceiling, so that you can push it and it would kind of like swing and move around like a pendulum. Underneath that board, there was another chain with a weight, so that you could push it as a kind of counter pendulum, so that the two things could kind of move in kind of like a weird complex like motion. In kind of like a weird complex like motion. In kind of like a weird complex like motion. I would kind of like set it in motion, and as it was doing its complex movements, I would kind of ride the waves of the drawing, and then the drawing would kind of generate itself. So the Tangle Garden drawings that you see here were all generated in that process. Just thinking about how artists can communicate through form. Just thinking about how artists can communicate through form. The one on the left, the red one, I was trying to think about kind of the color that you see when you have your eyes closed, right? So you know when you close your eyes, and sometimes when you're out in the sun, like you see this red, right? And so I try to kind of capture that feeling of the color that you see when you have your eyes closed. You know, presumably, I'm assuming that it's like the light going through the blood vessels in your eyelid, and that's why you get this kind of red glow. The colors in the other panel, they don't have a kind of like representational use of color. They were colors that I found in a hardware store. They had a pile of buckets of paint that they were just trying to get rid of super cheaply. And I put those together because they seem to, I don't know, there's a certain harmony and a certain, they're very odd colors. They're colors that you can't quite name what they are. I see them as kind of queer colors. Like there's something queer about them. Like, you know, the fact that they're like rejects, but also that there's no name to them, right? They're what they are, but they don't have to fit in a category.
I really do believe that dance is a language for me. And I have used it to break many barriers. I think one of them just being communication in general. Right now, I even feel like, oh wow, I gotta talk, I have to speak, and it's activating a different lane of thought to get your point across. Whereas with dance, for me, it's a clear sentence. It's communicated, it's translated, it's interpreted, and I believe that that feeling always is the same. You don't necessarily need to hear my movement to understand what I'm saying through it. I feel like even taking this moment to pause. This moment to pause is kind of that stillness that we all, I think, could use a little bit more in our lives. In this busy, crazy, hectic world where there's just so much chaos, I think work like Peter's really helps us to find that stillness, that balance, and doing nothing to give everything. I'm feeling a lot of growth and renewal, spontaneity, a freshness, a kind of rebirth, green. But something about the pink that's in the center feels like what's inside wanting to come out. And I think it's just being nurtured. I feel like this is what's really great about art. It can send you through so many different ways. So I would definitely say a lot of rebirth and creativity and spark.
Art is a really interesting activity. Like so much of what we do, I think, can come under the category of art. It's just kind of expressing yourself and making something to kind of make sense of your experience. And so sometimes we do it for our own sake, like we just need to make something. So that's its own reward. But I think also art fundamentally depends on kind of having a public dimension. I like to understand galleries as something with a very wide definition. It doesn't have to look like an art gallery. Gallery could be anything. It could be like your pocket in your jacket could be your gallery. I really believe in that ethos, that anything an artist says is a place for their work, that counts as a gallery.
yeah, I feel like I'm teleporting. I feel like I'm being trans, like I'm going through something. um, I almost feel like I'm lost in it and like a loop in this work. And I think that's even kind of like nerve-wracking for me, for like, especially what I'm going through and what I'm working through in my life. I remember praying once, like I was in like a really dark place and feeling like I was in a loop and wanting to break out of that loop or that sinking hole. And I feel like when I see this, I feel like I'm going down Alice's rabbit hole.
I could tell stories about it, but of course every viewer will have their own associations, and they don't have to be the associations that I will bring to it. But even if there's no association, I think even if you're just experiencing pieces of wood with color on them, that is enough, right? That, as an artwork, for me, it's enough that someone can have a moment with it, and that moment can resonate in ways that I will never be able to predict or imagine in advance.